Okay, so I'm here with Aaron Taylor from Four Root Farm in East Haddam, and you guys grow organic, certified organic vegetables and cut flowers. Is that true?
Okay.
You want to tell us a little bit about your farm?
Sure. We grow about 5 or 6 acres of organic vegetables and cut flowers for farmers markets mostly. Farm with 3 partners. We have a couple employees. This is our 6th season.
So your cooler is used to store vegetables and flowers, but you didn't start off with this beautiful situation here. You had something else?
Yeah, so when we first started farming here, we had a tarp leaning off the side of the barn with an old bathtub under it, which was our wash station, and a DIY cooler inside that we made out of rigid foam with a Coolbot in it.
Okay.
And that, I think we did 3 years like that, 3 seasons like that.
Okay.
By the time we got to the end of the 3rd season, we were definitely really stressed for space.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had built up some markets and we were growing more and more things and we were completely outgrowing what we had.
Okay, so you're out of space, needed something bigger.
Yeah, needed something bigger.
Were there any other issues that came up with your original cooler that you wanted to improve on?
The main thing was just space. That cooler was 8x8, which was great when we were starting out, but pretty quickly not enough. Especially we found when we started growing flowers that because they take up a lot of vertical space, we could stack vegetables all the way to the ceiling, but then the flowers were making that hard.
Okay, so those were some of the things you had in mind when you decided to design a whole new building?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So, who did you talk to about your design?
I'm super lucky in that my wife is an architect and her father's a builder, so I relied a lot on the two of them to help me actually design the thing.
Excellent. Yeah, that's very lucky.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. There's nothing super sophisticated about this space, but I'm not a builder,
Mm-hmm.
So it was really helpful to have them kind of tell me what to do.
Right, and now you can tell everybody else.
Yeah.
Pass on the knowledge. Cool.
Yeah.
So you had some actual serious kind of professional plans drawn up for this one.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have, except we applied for a transition grant
Okay.
with the state of Connecticut, and as part of the application, Caitlin drew up some actual plans.
Okay. So you guys applied for a farm transition grant through the Department of Ag in Connecticut?
Yes, yeah. And when we first conceived of the project, I think it was our 2nd year, and we realized we really needed a bigger space. Also, as we started pricing it out, it seemed like we probably couldn't afford to do what we wanted to do. So we applied for the transition grant. And as we went through that whole process, it ended up pushing us an extra year. But we were very fortunate to get it, and that helped us.
So with the transition grant money, were you able to add a few features that you might not have included?
Yeah, definitely. Our total project budget was about $30,000.
Okay.
And with the transition grant, we only had to ultimately pay about 15 of that. So we probably couldn't have spent any more money than that regardless. So It made it possible to do a lot more and make this a much more permanent structure that will hopefully serve us for many years instead of kind of always doing temporary steps, which is what we've been doing before.
Right. So it's a 50-50 match? Is that the...
Yes.
Okay. All right. And is it all materials, or was there labor in there that was...
It's mostly materials because we did most of the work ourselves.
What in particular was costly, do you feel like? Were there certain elements of the building that really added up?
The biggest thing was the concrete pad, which we weren't sure we could afford, but I'm really happy we ended up doing it. It makes this a permanent space. It makes the wash station, cleanable and very functional.
So I see you chose metal for your exterior. Is that more about the wash station cleanability, or?
Yes, only on this wall actually. On the sides and the back, it's wooden siding.
Okay.
But we did this metal to match the roof, so that we can spray and wash against that wall, and it just cleans down really easily.
Okay, so in solving your previous issue of too many steps to get to the cooler, you cited your wash station right outside your cooler.
Yep.
And is there a particular flow to the wash station that it makes sense for where your cooler is?
Yeah, so we have 2 coolers behind this wall, with a divided wall in between them.
Okay.
and there's doors on either side, which allow you to access either cooler.
Okay. Wow.
So generally we bring things in from the field over here, they come onto these tables, they get weighed, and then washed either in one of the dunk tanks or sprayed on the table, and then packed into crates, and then brought into whichever cooler they're going to live in.
Okay, and is that to separate things like flowers and vegetables, or what's the difference in the coolers?
It has different purposes depending on the season.
Okay.
And the initial conception was to have two different temperatures. So something we were always super aware of when we were just in our one little cooler originally was that mid-season we would have peppers and eggplants and squash and cucumbers which wanted to be around 50 degrees and greens that wanted to be around 35 degrees.
Of course,
and
right.
so then we'd put them in the same space and we'd set the cooler to 42 and nothing would be happy.
Right.
And so the idea was to have two different spaces that you could have set at different temperatures.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm certain that that has paid back. The amount of improvement we've seen in storage life of produce
Wow.
has been extraordinary. I mean, things that used to last 3 days now last more than a week.
Yeah.
Having the two different coolers also functions in that we knew we needed that much storage space, which is, I think, in total 30 by 10, so
Okay.
300 square feet.
Yeah.
But it's expensive to cool that much space if you're not using it all. So in the shoulder seasons, we just turn on one. We have one that's 10 by 10 and one that's 20 by 10. So until the season really picks up, you can just turn on the smaller one or the medium one
Right.
and save money on your cooling costs that way.
Okay, excellent.
And we also, because we grow flowers and vegetables that sometimes have different needs, sometimes the flowers will all be in one, veggies will all be in the other.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes flowers are very sensitive to ethylene. So if you have a vegetable that's producing ethylene, you can separate them. So we kind of are always shuffling what's happening and what the temperatures are and the different spaces and what the needs are. But it's been really useful to have the two different spaces so that we can have all that flexibility.
Okay, so here we are in the cooler. Beautiful. So let's talk about some of the materials you used. Obviously, solid foam insulation here, panels.
Yeah, it's actually a combination. So based on my research and what Coolbot recommended, they said you needed R25. And I did a bunch of math trying to figure out how to get there. And what we ended up doing was framing 2x4 walls and putting spray foam inside them, which gets you, I forget exactly, I think it's like R12 maybe,
Okay.
if you spray foam a 2x4 wall. And then putting this rigid foam insulation over that to get up to the right R value.
Okay.
Part of the reason for that was if you put enough rigid foam to get to R25 over the framing, you are losing space in your cooler.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to be able to use the framing space as part of the insulation space.
Right, of course. Yeah, but then this is over the framing, what we're looking at here.
Correct. So yeah, the framing got spray foamed, and then this went over it.
Okay.
And then the floor is insulated as well. If you want to have your cooler under, I think they say 37 degrees, you need to have an insulated floor, or else you'll start losing your heat or your cool. You start losing your cool through the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So
and what material is this?
The floor is, if I'm remembering correctly, 2x6 frame, joist framing with rigid XPS foam filling those cavities.
Okay.
And then plywood over that. And then the floor material is actually this really tough garage floor material.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a really strong type of rubber.
Really?
That's meant,
wow.
they
like
put
metal.
They put it in fancy garages or industrial garages to drive on.
Yeah.
So we figured that it would, it just rolled out like a sheet on top of here, but we figured it would hold up to sliding crates on top of it and stuff, and it has. I was concerned about water collecting in the floor. Mm-hmm. So I left that edge, which is the whole thing, the wash station and the cooler are on a grade, so there's like a 4% slope going out that way everywhere. So the floor is graded that way as well, and I left this edge where the wall and the floor meet uncaulked, so any water can run out there, and there are little drainage tubes on the bottom that go through the foundation.
Yeah.
So when it gets, so that allows me to, like, in the summer when I'm trying to keep greens happy in here, I can actually bring the hose inside, put a sheet over something, spray it down, and then not worry about water collecting and, you know, freezing in the winter or causing mold problems. Things like that.
Wow. So why did you not decide to put something over your foam here? We've seen it done both ways, where you have kind of like a washable material that's over it to protect the foam, or you just felt like it was good enough.
Mostly that.
Yeah.
I do have some memory of researching that and deciding that it wasn't worthwhile to try and put like a plastic sheet or anything like that, just in terms of the budget for the project and things like that. But I'm sure it could be improved upon.
And what did you look at in terms of doors? I see that you've insulated one of the exterior doors. The interior probably didn't need to do that.
Yeah, I do probably lose, when the two different coolers are at two different temperatures, I'm sure I lose some temperature through the door. It's not very well insulated. It's just an exterior steel door.
Okay. As
like,
are the exteriors.
Like that you would put on a, I guess not a house, but a barn or something like that. So it has some R value, but not high enough. So I just glued a piece of foam on top in the hopes that would help.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're the weak spots. There is a step up, and we couldn't figure out how to solve that problem with also trying to insulate the floor. So initially we had planned to have it be just a straight surface from the wash station in. But then we decided it was more important to have the floor insulated, so we had to build it up.
Yeah.
We also debated for a long time about whether the door should swing in or out, because when you're carrying something heavy, you know, it's nice to be able to push the door in as you're walking.
Yeah.
But then you're actually sacrificing inner space for the door swing.
Right.
The solution we came up with was to put a little shelf just outside the door. So you can always like set your crate on it, open the door, and then keep going.
Okay. So the shelving. How did you decide on the shelving? I've seen this before. Your typical wire rack, but it looks like you've got casters on it.
Yeah, we the shelves have been really instrumental for the flowers, as you can see. Like I was saying with the other cooler, vertical space becomes a problem with the flowers because they don't stack like crates of vegetables do. Turns out shelves are very expensive, so we've kind of just cobbled together what we can.
Yes.
We would love to have more shelves, but for now these are working.
Yeah, and that's a great idea though. The casters to have so you don't have to decide forever where your shelves are going. So you powered both coolers with a Coolbot and AC unit. Do you have any tips about which kind of AC unit works best, or?
Yeah, we've been really happy with the Coolbots. We ended up just buying the LG AC that they recommend. They have a bunch on their website that they say will work, and then they have the one that they say is best, and so we just went with that one. The only thing I would say that I wish we had more of in here is electrical outlets. So we ran one outlet with a 220 plug for the AC and two 120s, and I'm forever bringing power strips in here to plug in other little random things depending on what we're doing.
Yeah, okay. And do you ever heat it, or like need to use little heaters, like if you're doing winter squash or a winter veg?
Yeah, so in the shoulder seasons, sometimes we'll put a heater on we have a thermostat that has hot and cold. It's like a dual stage thermostat that will turn on the hot plug or the cold plug, and so you can plug in a space heater and the AC at the same time, and it will manage which one's needed. So especially in the fall, when you're in the 50s during the day and in the 20s at night, keep things from freezing. So that's been really good.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing that I regret is that we don't have any storage space that's not also the cooler.
Say more about that.
If you're thinking about, your wash station and your pack area and your cooler as like a single unit, I think you need to build in plenty of space to store your bags and your pint containers and, rubber bands and all the stuff that you need for that space.
So like a storage closet?
Storage closet, yeah. I wish we'd had, another building or another room that's 4x10.
Stuff.
That's the closet.
Yeah.
That's not cool. And of course, when you only have like so much indoor space, you want it to be your cooler space. So you're kind of balancing these two things.
Yeah. But overall, the cooler's working just like a dream.
Overall, it's been great.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of thought about what we thought we needed and then multiplied by 2. And, already 3 years later, like, I'm really glad with that decision.
Yeah.
Never have too much storage space.